painfully close to the Super Bowl last year when they were unable to hold a 17-point lead in the NFC Championship against the 49ers in San Francisco. They're bringing back largely the same group, including their coordinators. Defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn and offensive coordinator Ben Johnson were both candidates for head coaching jobs elsewhere, but both of them stayed. And the Lions think that's a big advantage to them as they pursue their ultimate goal.
Trust is a big thing in this game, so it was a great thing that Ben came back because he knows our offense very well, and he knows how to put us in positions to succeed and get us the ball and score points. So with that, just connection is pure. So.
Personnel-wise, things look mainly the same, but maybe Jameson Williams could be somebody that we can see a lot more?
Yeah, J-Mo, he's stepping up really big this year. He's a completely different player from last year. It's crazy to see his development and growth. Yeah, man, I'm so proud of him. I'm so excited to watch him play.
I talked to Ben Johnson before Thursday morning's practice, and he said the biggest difference he notices is that there's more confidence and swagger around here than there's ever been before. Johnson told me there's a sense that we have a standard, it's a high standard, and if we don't hold ourselves to it, we're all going to be pissed off.
That just sounds like the Lions, doesn't it? All right, biggest moves they made this season. We talked about what the Bucs were doing. Well, the Lions, they extended their own players. They lock up Jared Goff. They lock up Amon-Ra St. Brown and Penei Sewell, all to long-term deals. They add DJ Reader and Marcus Davenport. They bolster that defensive line. They draft a couple of quarterbacks in the draft, Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw. That could have been perhaps addressing their biggest need of the offseason, a guy who's always high on the Detroit Lions. Yes, yeah, looking at you. You've been there. Listen, you were preaching it all along.
He didn't do
they
much.
come so.
He didn't do much there.
What?
He been there, but he was just visiting.
Yeah.
He's a legend there. He's a legend.
He was telling us.
Yeah, sure
you were telling us. How do they get back to the Super Bowl? How do they?
So stupid, man. Oh my gosh.
Lions legend. That is.
Go back home.
Well, that is how we should introduce Dan Fernell.
Yes.
Lions legend. Dan
Maybe not for a good reason.
Yes.
Maybe not for a good reason.
In somebody's mind.
I think really, we just gave a graphic of some of the really important names, certainly departures, but some of the additions. I think the biggest addition is going to be a full offseason healthy Jameson Williams. Mm-hmm. I'm nitpicking for the Detroit Lions here. If I had to find one thing that I guess was a flaw of their offense last year was it didn't have vertical speed. And Ben Johnson, who's their offensive coordinator, who they're lucky to keep, one of the things that stands out about his offense is it looks a lot like Kyle Shanahan's. When Kyle, Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur's offenses, when they have someone who can go down the field, it takes the offense to a different level. Because the defense can't shrink as much anymore, and then the play action's even bigger. And so you can either throw the ball downfield or get some of those really big chunks in the play action game. So if Jameson could stay healthy and kind of be what they envisioned him to be 2 years ago when they drafted him in the first round with his speed, man, it just changes so much of the explosive element and the chunk offense that they can get in their play action game.
Yeah, to your point, they become 3-level. Great running game, Amon-Ra and Laporta work in the middle of the field.
It felt right.
You put a little flair
and then
on that.
obviously with Jameson. But I like, similar in the same vein of what Tampa did this offseason, we're getting Penei Sewell signed, Amon-Ra St. Brown, extending Jared Goff. I thought those were big moves just for the direction of where the Detroit Lions has been going for a few years. I'm going to also tell you this, man. Aiden Hutchinson has gotten helped out tremendously by Marcus Davenport coming over from the Saints. Okay. Because last year, we sat here week in and week out talking about, man, if they could just get after the quarterback. If they could just create that pressure outside of Aiden Hutchinson, they got going a little bit from the interior with a game. But Marcus Davenport is another one of those big, long defensive ends that creates a lot of havoc from the outside. I think he's going to be one of those guys that take this defense to another level.
See, you bring up Davenport. And I think of DJ Reader.
And
had DJ Reader been healthy during free agency, he got hurt there at the end of last season against the Minnesota Vikings. Had he been healthy, he would have been one of the top free agents 100%. Available. And Detroit got him at a discount because he was hurt. He was damaged goods. But if he's healthy, and he's a force on that defense. You got Davenport and DJ Reader to combine with Aiden Hutchinson to make what was a tough defense that much tougher and to raise this team's hopes even more. And I asked Lions legend Dan Orlovsky, has this city ever been more excited for a Detroit Lions city than this?
No, I mean, this is real. I mean, this is the best team that they have had in well over 25, close to 30 years. It's real. They're a NFC favorite. Them and San Francisco are what we know in the NFC.
You guys mentioned DJ Reader, Aiden Hutchinson. I just want to mention one more name on the defensive line. Lynn McNeil is a star in the making. This was already a really good run defense. I think they could be dominant there. The question, and really the only question I have about this team, is pass defense. This was obviously the biggest problem with this team last year. It was one of the only areas in which they were weak, and they addressed it pretty aggressively. Hannah, you laid out the draft picks. You draft Terrion Arnold, Dennis Rakestraw. You didn't see it. They traded for Carlton Davis, who I expect to have a starting role on the outside. Last year, you saw the good offensive coordinators would target the weaknesses in that secondary pretty aggressively, something you saw San Francisco do in the playoffs. Those players aren't there anymore. And if Arnold, Davis can step up, and maybe Jack Campbell, who they drafted in the first round, can play better in coverage this year, I think this pass defense could be significantly improved. And if that's the case, I mean, the sky's the limit with this team.
They allowed almost 8 yards an attempt, to Mina's point, last year. That was 31st in the NFL.
Pass rush going to have a lot to do with that.
Every offense in that division runs the same offense.
Now to reality, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have made left tackle Tristan Wirfs the highest paid offensive lineman in the NFL. 5 years, $140 million, just over 88 guaranteed. Here he is on the new deal. Congrats.
I don't really want to be anywhere else. It's pretty nice here. So I think just doing what I can to, I think both parties were happy. Tampa's a pretty good place to be.
Says a lot about us keeping our own guys from a stability standpoint. The guys that played great got rewarded greatly, and they're leaders on our team. Says a lot about the organization getting the job done. It says a lot about the team taking care of their own, especially the great ones that played. And to get him locked up like that, as much as he's done for this organization over the years, is outstanding.
Man, they've been locking everybody up, Adam. It's great to see one of the big men get paid, right, Swagoo? How did this come about, Adam?
Well, Hannah, you heard Todd Bowles talk about keeping their own players. And if we go back to the Combine, the Buccaneers laid out a plan there where in their perfect world, they would imagine keeping their key players. And what happens? They go out and they re-sign quarterback Baker Mayfield. They go out and re-sign Mike Evans. They go out and re-sign Antoine Winfield Jr. They go out and re-sign Levante David. And today, they cap off their goal that they set at the Combine by keeping Tristan Wirfs on a 5-year deal that ties him to the team through 2029 and makes him the highest paid Buccaneer in franchise history and the highest paid offensive lineman in franchise history. They have him now for the foreseeable future. He's obviously one of the best offensive linemen in the game. This was the last move that they had to make. And oh, by the way, right now, Wirfs is the highest paid player at his position. Antoine Winfield Jr. is the highest paid player at his position. So to Todd Bowles' point, they did step up and pay their own players.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to, if you're on that squad, I mean, what kind of message does that send, the way the front office has taken care of business, unlike some other teams?
Yeah, it raises your eyebrows because you know that you can be next in line. The other thing is, though, Adam knows this as well. Tampa has a long history of doing this. When you have success and you continue to be a pillar in that organization, a lot of those guys work in the community as well, but they like to keep it in-house. That's why you see this team every so often they vying to win the Super Bowl, or they go out and make a move like they did with Tom Brady, or back when I was watching this team with Booger McFarland and Warren Sapp and Derek
Brooks, Rondé Barber.
Rondé Barber. They keep those guys for a long. They retire. They jerseys hang up in the stadium. So this is another one of those things where this family has done a phenomenal job in ownership of making sure that they identify guys that are not only going to be good players, but pillars and ambassadors for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I'm telling you right now, when you watch Tristan Wirfs play football, he worth every single penny.
Wirfs is worth it?
Wirfs is worth it, bro. I'm telling you.
Why do you say that? Why do you say that?
The physicality and the run game. It's
so
hard to find two-dimensional, man. Like, you got some guys that can pass set, and they phenomenal at keeping guys off the edge. But sometimes when you want to run left or you want to run right and you got a road grader, like he can be in the run game, that's difficult for D linemen.
He plays really good. He plays with really good leverage too. The wrestling background shows up for him.
Absolutely.
I think Tampa's like a sneaky good football team this year. Maybe not as, I mean, obviously,
you think they can repeat as division champs, right?
I do. I think them and Atlanta are obviously the favorites, but playoff football team last year and pushed Detroit. And obviously, Detroit had, the ending of their season. But if you look at this offensive line, the guy in the middle is probably the most important part to their offense. Graham Barton, who's their rookie center that they took out of Duke. If he's able to play at a relatively high level, this is an offensive line that is going to try to physically maul you. And then you've got two really good receivers that are proven. McMillan, right side of your screen there from Washington, I think is going to be a fantastic pro. Kate Otten at tight end, and White is a dynamic and dual threat back. I mean, if this offensive line can play at a good level, this is going to be a good football team. Now, Liam Cohen, who's now the offensive coordinator, replaces Dave Canal as head coach for the Carolina Panthers. I don't see a drop-off in performance by anybody in there. I really don't. Liam Cohen's time with Baker, he comes from a little bit of the Shanahan, McVay tree. I think it's the perfect marriage scheme and player-wise. This team could be a very, very good football team at the end of the season.
Any concerns about Canales leaving, Mina?
No. I want to hop off on something that Dan mentioned, though. I think Graham Barton is so important to this offense because what they did last year, it was kind of, I think like it got overlooked, the level of difficulty. Tristan Wirfs switching positions, Luke Goedeke, who struggled moving to right tackle, that shouldn't have worked, and yet it did. They were both excellent. The interior of the offensive line, however, was a problem, and you really saw that in run blocking. I mean, how many times do you see Rashad White just slamming into the teeth of a defense? He was 39th in yards before contact per carry, by the way. If they can get more push on the inside, and obviously that's where they've invested, drafting Barton where they did, to me, that could be a massive, massive instigator in taking this offense to the next level by improving the run game, because that was really the biggest issue with this team last year. It wasn't the pass game, and it was a big part of why they were in so many third and longs.
Yeah, 21% chance to win the NFC South. Last year, though, only a 9% chance, and they got it done.